Hey, this is Jim at Broadfield. Thanks for joining us for another Broadfield Liquid Lunch and Learn every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You will see we are being joined by a special guest on today's show, Jim McKenna from Facilis. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Great, Jim. How are you doing?
Excellent, excellent. You're one of the few people in the industry that every time I talk to you, we always refer to last names. So we know
Right.
exactly
Yeah.
which Jim is being mentioned out on the call.
Perfect.
Um, Jim, you just got back from the IBC show, right?
Yeah, it was a great show. We showed for the first time, and especially it's an international show. We showed this exact feature, the FASTCache, running projects on a server from across the ocean, and worked out great.
That's awesome. You know, Broadfield had the pleasure of doing a show in New York with you not too long ago, where we were able to preview FastCache for some of our dealers in the tri-state area. You guys were doing a bunch of demos at IBC, and there's going to be some demos coming up at NAB New York. So I thought it would be a great time to invite you on to introduce FastCache to our dealer audience. And I want to encourage all of our dealers to stop by the Broadfield booth at NAB New York, where Facilis is actually going to be our next door neighbor, and we'll make sure that you get a demo of FastCache while you're there. And it's really going to be a revolutionary new feature for all the Facilis shared storage and media management solutions. So, Jim, without further ado, why don't we go and talk a little bit about this exciting new feature?
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks everybody for watching today or whenever you see this. FastCache is yet another innovative feature from Facilis based upon our shared file system. Our custom shared file system gives us benefit of a lot of features that you just can't get with standard network attached storage or NAS. And I'm going to bring up some slides here and just sort of show you what we're talking about. So the name is FastCache. It's meant to be a client-side caching system, and it actually works, and it works very well. And I can show you sort of the design ideas behind it here. So for remote and low bitrate editors, and this doesn't have to be necessarily remote, but we do offer some additional features when it comes to remote access of the server, and I'll go over those as well. Any low bitrate connected client will benefit from FastCache. And so this is going to be something that can be moved in facility as well as for remote external clients as well. And you know, our shared file system has always been optimized for low bitrate connections. We've been working through VPN for the last 10 years. But with the latest advancements, we now have an even faster way to get remote access to the server. And with FastCache, you'll see that now we've further optimized that and made it so that, you know, everything is real time for the remote editor as well. So we deliver the no cloud option, unless everyone's making lots of money selling cloud, which I don't think many people are. Then you know you want a solution where you can sell hardware. You want CapEx money. You want to be able to still provide that service to your customers. And so the no cloud option means that you're going to own your storage. You don't have to rent it. You don't have to worry about extending project schedules because you have all this stuff up on the cloud. And if they decide to, you know, go 2 months on sabbatical, what do you do with all that stuff? Do you egress it all and take that cost on, or do you leave it up there and take the monthly cost of that cloud storage? With owned storage, you don't have to worry about that. And true hybrid project collaboration. Have some clients in the facility, some clients that are remote. Really difficult to do this in a sort of a cloud synchronization workflow because you never were looking at the same project file in two places. You're looking at copies of the project files in two places. So when you're on-prem or you're remote, with our solution, you're looking at the same exact files at the same exact time. And it's security that you know and trust. You know, so we've been doing this for 21 years now. Cloud providers, you know, are always in churn when it comes to their product offerings and their costs and their policies. You know, and some people just aren't comfortable pushing everything up to the cloud, you know, for it to exist someplace out of facility. So we offer that security. You own it, you manage it locally in your facility. WAN Link is our method of connecting to the server from far away. So we have a method by which I can access over a public IP and a port forward on the router. And some people's hair gets on fire when they talk about port forwarding. It's encrypted, it's secured. There's multi-levels of security here, authorization of client workstations, of course, AES encryption, but it removes the VPN tunnel latency that you get when you try and access the entire network from your home system. this takes that away, and it gets 2 to 3 times faster than VPN. And that's just with our stuff over VPN. You start to access SMB shares through NAS systems over VPN, it's much slower. So we see a definite benefit from going from VPN to WAN link. And that can get up to full 1 gigabit speeds across the country. And I've shown this before with a system over in Portland, Oregon, from my desktop in Massachusetts. FASTCache further optimizes this, and it's automatic local caching of data. So if you're familiar with some other solutions that would work with cloud and cache data from the cloud, well, that's kind of necessary because you don't want to be egressing over and over and over again. You need to cache that data locally. For us, it's more of an acceleration tool. It's an ability for us to take that file that you've already read and put it onto a fast local storage, and be sure that the next time you read it, it's not going to be slow read, it's going to be fast read. So it's a big blob of data. It's not copies of files. This is not something you can go into and look into the cache and see video and frames. It's obfuscated. Love that word. It's non-volatile, so you can reboot and the cache is all still there. Unlike sort of caching on network appliances, which there is some caching there, but you're never going to see it after you reboot or disconnect that share. There's no cache size limit. You can have as large of a cache on the client side as you like. No license fee. We're not talking about licensing this just yet. In 2024, it's going to be fully available to anyone who buys or owns a Facilis server under support. And it's on access caching, which means that I read it, it gets cached, or it's pre-caching, which means before I start the job, I just start caching the data and reading it through on an automated basis, and it's all ready for me to go, by the time that's done, and I can act like it's local to me because it's going to feel that way, being on that SSD or that NVMe drive I have local on my system. Worked with WAN link, worked with VPN, worked with LAN. And there's reasons as well to run FASTCache on a LAN. So your 1 gig or 10 gig connected client, you can benefit from this. And I'll show you what that means in a moment. But it leverages our custom shared file system. FASTCache would not be available unless we had a custom shared file system. We call it the Facilis shared file system. Great name. And because of this shared file system, we're able to produce these types of features that you just can't get with network attached storage. And we're always maintaining an active path. Sorry about that. We're always maintaining an active path to the network storage volumes for project collaboration and seamless media sharing. So it means that you're never on an island. You're never sort of taking all your media and just kind of working on it at home, outside of anything else that's going on. We take that and we always go back to the server when it comes to files that are written, renders, project saves, all go back to the server. So we don't have to worry about sort of that editor doing things that you're not aware of. Still connected to the server, still completely in the network and in the collaborative environment. And of course,
I'm glad you mentioned that, Jim, because I think that's one of the big concerns we hear all the time in the industry. People hear about the localized cache, and the biggest question is exactly how much data is available on that localized storage, how much is controlled from the network environment itself.
So, when people just send hard drives out to their editors, because they need them to work on a particular job, they lose all control of that. And, then you can't expand that amount of cache they have or the amount of storage they're using because they have no access to the server internally. You got to send them a second hard drive.
Right.
So with this case, you're sending a cache out potentially because you can do that. You can cache something in the facility, send them a drive. It's all cached locally. Now it now works perfectly on their system, but all the new data coming in is still available on the server for them because they're attaching to the server over one of these methods, and you're always enlarging the data set that you have on the desktop at home. So that's a big benefit, for administrators that have to deal with this on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Now, client workstations connected to the Facilis servers can use FASTCache regardless of sort of how they're connected or where they're connected. And, some of the big benefits of this is that I can lower my server load and lower my network load by using FASTCache on the client workstation. So even if they're all 10 gig connected and they're perfectly happy with the speeds they're getting on the network, but maybe I get some bottlenecks on some uplinks to my switches, and maybe I've added some more clients with higher bit rates, and I'm starting to overload the network or the server, and I I can't do the expansion or the upgrade right now on the network. FastCache fixes that, because every time you read something, it goes into cache locally. You're not reading those files again from the server, whether it be tomorrow, the next day, or 2 minutes from now. When you read it again, it's coming off that local drive, that local NVMe or SSD. So that network utilization, that server utilization drops way down. So it smooths out the entire network, smooths out the performance of the server, and everyone's happier in that case. And also, we can get around the idea of, well, why do you have a flash caching server? Can I cache flash on the server and then sort of tier it in a tiering algorithm to hard drives? And that's been, popular for enterprise storage for a long time. But the problem with that is, especially for post-production and media creation, is that doesn't improve the client speeds. If you're still on a Wi-Fi or a 1 gig or a 10 gig connection, you're not going to be any faster because it's cached on the server. Whereas with FastCache, it will be faster because that local NVMe can go 2,000 megabytes per second. So you're going to have that speed on that same media that you wouldn't have with a flash caching server centralized. And of course, the cache is shared on a server that carries everybody's cache at the same time. So if someone's starts caching things that kick yours out, then you need to recache, and it becomes cumbersome, and it's not scalable. Once you have that server in place, you'll never have more cache than the server has. But if every client you add to the network has their own cache locally, you keep adding and adding terabytes and terabytes of cache to your overall network system through the use of client-side caching. So this is a really interesting feature, I think, for us, and something that's going to be beneficial for most customers out there. I wanted to show a short video that we've done for this as well that sort of explains this a little better, maybe with some visuals, if you want to go ahead and roll that.
Yeah, let's do.
Hello there. Welcome to this Facilis technology video. Let's get right into FastCache, the new remote editorial feature that gives you full bandwidth to files that you're accessing over the internet. First, let's talk about where this feature is designed to work. The most obvious benefit is for editors and artists that work from home and have their workstations set up at home. These workstations can be connected to the Facilis hub server through a VPN, or better yet, through the Facilis One link. Please check out our One link video if you're not familiar with that feature. Even with the optimized one-link access, the remote connection may be too slow for consistent streaming of high bitrate video. This will result in drop frames and overall sluggishness of the application. The fix for this is to cache the data locally. When you cache data, it's just saving the bits of data you've already read. So the next time you read it, you're using the fast local data instead of the slower server data. This speeds up your playback and rids the system of that sluggish behavior. Here's an example of how it looks on your remote workstation. The Hub Client console has settings for finding the on-prem server and making sure encryption is enabled. It also has the FastCache settings, where the feature is enabled and set to cache to a local drive. I mount the volume from my server, which is several miles away from my remote workstation. You'll see there's also an SSD icon on the desktop. That's the local drive I'm using for FastCache. Let's open up Adobe Premiere and import some files. Normally, it would take a long time to even display the directory contents from miles away, but because of One link, it's very fast indeed. The files are imported, and I can load them into the timeline. By the way, this is UHD ProRes HQ video at over 700 megabits per second. There's no way this can play real-time over my internet connection. But look at that. Snappy response, no dropped frames. The application thinks it's reading from the server, but it's really reading from the FastCache SSD. To get this working the first time through, I pre-cached this project before starting. Otherwise, I could just play through the timeline at least once to get it cached for real-time performance. Now, take a look at what happens when I turn off the cache. The cache is meant to help with playback, but without it, the editor still has access to all the same files. I'll just remount the volume with the cache disabled and go back to the same timeline. Everything is still online, but now it's streaming directly from the server at the facility. Because of this, the video starts to drop frames after a couple seconds. The one link connection is trying its best to keep up, pulling 40 to 50 megabytes per second through the internet. But it's just not enough for this high-quality footage. Let's turn the cache back on so we can get some work done. The cache is non-volatile. It will all still be there after you reboot, and you can even carry the cache drive to another workstation or pre-cache data in the facility and send it off to a remote editor. As long as you can mount the volume, the cache contents are available. There we go. 0 dropped frames. The SSD drive can handle anything you throw at it, all the way up to uncompressed 4K. The network activity has stopped. Even though Adobe thinks it's still using the mounted Facilis volume, only local disk activity is showing. In this workflow, the editor is never on an island. The project is shared, the video and audio files are shared, and any new files are immediately accessible. All outputs and renders are immediately on the server and being shared at the facility and among other remote editors. For you, FASTCache may be a new way to work or an improvement to the way you're already working. One thing is certain. It's a unique and powerful tool that simplifies hybrid on-prem and remote workflows. Talk to the people at Facilis Technology about it as soon as you can. Have a great day.
Jim, that was a great video. Thank you so much for sharing that. So
Yeah,
for
no
our
problem.
dealers watching us today, know that we will have that video available for you to share with all of your prospective clients. So we will share that with you at the end of the webinar. You can take a look with this webinar itself. You can share that video with any of your clients. It'll give them a really good introduction overview of exactly what FASTCache is capable of. And Jim, I also wanted to ask you if you could fire up a little bit of a demo for us.
Yeah, just a couple minutes here because I wanted to show you, you saw Adobe Premiere in the video, and I wanted to show you the Avid side of this as well, since we've been supporting Avid workstations and workflows and large Avid facilities for 20 years now. And our shared file system was the first to have true Avid emulation for bin locking back in 2009. So we know a lot about the Avid environment. I was a former product designer at Avid as well. So dating myself to the 90s. But here we are, in the Avid interface, and you'll see that I have a couple of timelines here. I have a low bitrate timeline that I can open up and just play down. This is coming directly off of my WAN link connection. These are, XDCAM, 50 megabit, things like that. So, this is all fine. I could play this all day long on WAN link, whether the server is, next door or 1,000 miles away. And so with this, we have proxy generation of Avid native media within Fast Tracker. We can do all of the proxy generation necessary for low bitrate connections to the server without even using FASTCache. You'll succeed, with this type of environment and no drop frames in the timeline. Now, if I go into a HQ timeline, this is a DNX HQ. You'll see if I start up here, I'm going to be playing back, and I'm going to play back. And you'll see that I'm not really using the network here. I'm using disk because this is already cached. I went to the head of this and played it down once already before the show started. So you're going to see that there's no drop frames there. But I'll go to a section of the timeline here that hasn't been cached yet. And so this is directly off of the server, and I think this server is about 20 miles away from me at our main office. And I'll start playing that, and you'll see it's going to start to drop some frames. You see it's not going to be able to make it all the way through, and so I have some drop frames there on the timeline. But I also have on-access real-time caching. So that means that every time I read something, it goes into the cache. So if I hit play again, drop frames go away. Much more successful playing that down. Now, we don't expect everyone to do that every time they hit start a timeline, to play the whole thing down and catch it in first. But, for people that are getting new media coming in on an hour-to-hour basis, certainly they can be putting that in their timeline, playing it down, dealing with a little bit of sluggishness until it's fully cached, and then moving on with their day. Otherwise, our pre-caching is easy to do. Highlight the folder, hit pre-cache on the system, and it goes through and copies. It doesn't copy, it just reads everything into the cache, and that happens very fast in the background. So you can be doing that, set it off, and then go back to your working on your cache volume and not have to worry about it. So everything I do here, anything I render, effects I render, and every time I save a bin, you'll see the bin locking is in effect here on the Avid project. Every time I save a bin, someone is seeing the saved bin on their workstation in the facility as well. Full collaboration between my home systems and my in-facility system. So I just wanted to show you that really quick demo there for what that's worth, and hope you kind of understand what we're going for.
No, that's absolutely awesome. So, Jim, I know one of the things that we did when you first announced this feature and you started talking to us about it is we went through the Broadfield line card to make sure we could find an NVMe SSD drive that Broadfield offers that we can ship with the Facilis servers to make sure that your clients are going to have that fast cache capability. And we have the SanDisk Professional, the G40 SSD drives. I know, Jim, we sent one of these to you. These drives are working great, right?
They are. And, most anything that you have in terms of an SSD or NVMe drive that can be attached over Thunderbolt or USB 3 is going to work really well for this feature. Clients already have these in many cases. They can just go ahead and initialize those to be used with FASTCache. But we're also going to be supplying these under a part number on our price list, pre-initialized at our factory and sent out directly to the customer's drop ship. And then all they do is plug it in. And as soon as they plug it in, the next volume they mount will start caching to that cache drive. There's nothing else to do. So we make it really easy, and we make it really simple, and hopefully, the value add there is there for the customer to be able to purchase that through our resellers.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for showing off FastCache today. Our customers like to know when FastCache is going to be released. I know it is available in beta now, right?
Yeah, we have beta sites already, and we think that by the time NAB New York is up and running, we're going to have an announcement out that it's shipping. And if not, it'll be very soon after that, but that's the plan right now.
That's great. Yet another reason to stop by the Facilis booth at NAB New York. Again, Broadfield's booth will be right next door. We'll be happy to introduce you to Jim and the rest of the team at Facilis. Make sure that you get the demo and see all the capabilities that FastCache allows you to bring to your customers that are looking for this remote access to their storage profiles and their Facilis servers. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Jim, and the whole Broadfield team. We appreciate it.
If you have any questions about Facilis FastCache or any of the Facilis storage solutions, call your Broadfield sales rep at 800-634-5178. Thanks for tuning in today, and we will see you at NAB New York. Until next time, cheers.
Broadfield Distributing is a value-added distributor of live production, streaming, video editing, and storage products. We only sell to resellers. We are always looking for new dealers, so call us at 1-800-634-5178 or email sales@broadfield.com. You'll like doing business with Broadfield because we make it easy to do business.